Hello, nerds and nerdettes. Welcome back to the channel where once again we have a new review for you guys, this time on a Rick Remender title put out by Dark Horse, which is The End League, the Library Edition. But before we go over any details, I do want to remind you guys that if you are looking for this book or any other books that I've previously reviewed, to use the channel sponsor, organicpricebooks.com. Use the discount code STAYNERDY for $2 off your order and also to help support the channel as well as Organic Price Books. But without further ado, let's jump into the book. So this does have a cover price of $39.99 as well as a page count of 248 pages. Great title, one I have heard nothing about nor have I read, so I'm happy that I finally was able to read it. But let's talk a little bit about that after the overhead shots, which we can jump to now. And here we are, The End League by Rick Remender, Matt Broom, and Eric Canet. This is the hardcover by Dark Horse. It is a Remender title, so obviously this is more of a library edition and is much larger than a Marvel Omnibus, which I'm more of a fan of, but it is what it is. It's kind of a Rick Remender thing. But we can go ahead and get into the book since there's not a whole lot on the board and there's no dust jacket or anything. So we'll go ahead and get right into the book. We do have some end pages with art kind of behind it, a title page, a larger title page with a lot of the key players. And then we also have a breakdown as far as chapters go. There's really two sets of, I guess, graphic novels included, which is Ballad of Big Nothing and Weathered Statues. You do have Matt Broom doing most of the art until chapter 4, where after page 96, Eric Canet takes over. I honestly enjoyed Eric Canet's work over Matt Broom's. I feel like it was more fitting to the story, but we can get into that as we get into the actual contents. So, I guess a quick synopsis of the story. You do have a lot of analog characters to DC characters. For example, Astonish Man, who's very similar to Superman. You also have a Captain America type of character, a Wonder Woman type of character, Batman, etc., etc. So for all intensive purposes, you can kind of imagine this is in a DC-like universe. But the quick synopsis of the story is the Superman character, Astonishing Man, is essentially brainwashed to take a warhead of sorts and unleash it on Earth, releasing a green gas, which is very similar to the Terrigen Mist in Marvel, giving a large amount of the population superpowers, super abilities, and unfortunately for the heroes and a lot of the population, those that did get the powers decided to turn more towards villainy rather than super heroics. Not crazy spoilers there. There are some spoilers that I will avoid, but all that plot is revealed in the first issue. So you do pick up at the end of the world where this new villainous army or population that has now been established due to the actions of Astonish Man under mind control essentially have taken over the world. Think Old Man Logan in a way where multiple cities, countries are kind of split up among the villains and deviated in a way where they are almost rulers in a way of these parts of Earth. Um, so the best way I can describe it is DC superheroes meets Old Man Logan. That is honestly a decent way to describe kind of the mashup of storytelling that is taking place here. Overall, the storytelling is amazing. Rick Remender is a astonishing writer, as a lot of us know. as I kind of touched on, Matt Broom, his art, which we will flip to just as far as comparison, in my opinion, does feel slightly flat when it comes to the way his characters kind of look and even some of their expressions. But then when we get to Eric Canute, which I'm probably butchering that, you have a lot more enthusiasm, a lot more motion, a lot more just dynamic pages that are happening with lots of movement, lots of texture to the characters and their expressions. And I very much was not feeling the title initially with Matt Broom's art. I am very big on art, but as soon as Eric Knut took over, I fell in love with the title. I enjoyed my reading experience from that point. Um, some standout characters that you're really going to be looking at is, as I said, Astonish Man, who is the equivalent of Superman in this universe. He's very much focused on. And then another very main character that is focused on as well is the character of Black, which is the analog to Batman in this world as well. There is a few more other characters that play a prevalent role. There is really three storylines that are being told simultaneously, so you get a lot of characters explored and them playing different roles in the story depending on what they're doing at that time. But as far as the story goes, I do not find the storytelling to be confusing at any point, even though there are three storylines being told simultaneously. They all do converge at some point, and it honestly performs super well. There is a very, very intense twist at the end that is almost a callback to the beginning. If you've read it, you probably know what I'm referencing in that regard, but I do not want to dive any deeper. So those of you that do read this title can be as surprised as me. I feel like there was not a lot of talk around this title, Rick Remender being a writer that has a lot of buzz, but there's not a whole lot about this specific title in the community, so I'm happy I gave it a shot and formulated my own opinion. And even after you guys watch this, I highly recommend you guys to do that as well, because there's a lot in this story that takes place, a large cast to kind of focus on and remember, and a very intense twist at the end, which I honestly did not see coming, and I think it performs beautifully. But we won't go any deeper into the book to avoid spoilers, so we will wrap up there and head back to the table with some closing thoughts. Hello and welcome back. So if you could not tell, definitely enjoyed my reading experience on this title. I had fairly high expectations because it is Rick Remender, but not too high because I really haven't heard anybody really talk about this title in general. I'm not exactly sure why now that I've read it, because it was absolutely phenomenal. I very much enjoyed the story. Pertaining to writing, it is very Rick Remender like. Kind of the similar tropes that he does explore through other titles, he explores here as well. So you are getting a little bit of a par for the course pertaining to writing. One thing to kind of make note of is this is not a turn your brain off and you'll kind of understand what's going on type of story. There are three stories being told simultaneously that you kind of have to keep track of, not to mention the characters that are being introduced and told, and we are being told about through its pages as well. Obviously, if you couldn't tell, they are kind of representations of DC heroes. You do have a Superman-like character, Wonder Woman, Batman, Flash, a lot of characters that are almost directly resemble those DC heroes, which is kind of fun because you get to see those heroes pretty much in a story that they would never be allowed to actually take part in. So it's kind of better just to, while learning their names, just kind of reference them as this is the Superman-like character, etc., etc. That was the best way for me to kind of keep track because it is a large cast of characters. This does take place in a post-apocalyptic world that also features superheroes. So that's two things that I absolutely love, ticked off the box. So super happy that I was able to check it out. Pertaining to art, you do have two artists. You have Matt Broom and Eric Canet. Matt Broom initially starting the series, I honestly did not enjoy his art through the first, I believe, 3 issues that he is doing the art for. I felt like it felt very kind of bland and one-dimensional, and a lot of the fight scenes weren't as dynamic as I kind of wanted them to be, especially when it came to two godlike beings fighting. But then when it came to Eric Canet, I very, very much enjoyed his artwork. That was kind of the revitalization of the story while reading it for me personally. As soon as his art came into play and I realized that I pretty much loved it, I love that. I love the story even more. Very much enjoyed my reading experience from then on out. Pertaining to the ending of the book, which we are going to stay away from spoilers, so no worries there. Um, you do kind of have to keep track of names and timelines and stories that were happening simultaneously for the ending to really hit as hard as it should, because it is such an interesting roundabout style of ending a story. And I didn't see it coming. I very much enjoyed it, and it was an absolute blast. All in all, I am going to give it a 9.7 out of 10. I'm not going to sit here and say it is the best thing Rick Remender has ever written, but it very much impressed me. I love my reading experience, and I specifically very much love the ending of the book. But that does wrap up today's review. Thank you so much for watching, as always. If you guys have read this, I'd love to hear from you guys. Kind of stay away from spoils if you can in the comments. But I definitely heard nothing about this title, and I don't blame people because Rick Remender has so many amazing titles attached to his name that eventually some are going to kind of get brushed under the rug as the newer titles start to roll out. So I don't think it's any issue there because I still enjoyed my reading experience. But enough about me. I would love to hear from you guys and what your reading experience was, if you enjoyed the story or not, because I think this is, like I said, a definitely slept on book, and I would love to hear from you guys. But other than that, if you have not joined the Illuminati, hit that subscribe button. Also, if you could do me a favor and hit that thumbs up icon, and also if you did enjoy today's video, then hit that bell icon. That way you can get notified. But other than that, thank you so much for watching, as always, and also stay nerdy.